Hi everyone, welcome back to the table. I'm Kim Ganassin and this is B3 Dimensional Part 2. Now last time in B3 Dimensional Part 1 I explained why I'm completely fine with the three-dimensional body on this three-dimensional earth because I don't believe there's a single thing stopping us from developing 5D consciousness while we are in the physical body. So today on B3D Part 2 we're going to start to prep for an exercise to make it all happen. Three-dimensional consciousness within, five-dimensional consciousness within the three-dimensional body. So let's start with some concepts here. I want to put an end to language that traps us within the limitations of three-dimensionality. There are words that we use and concepts that we think in terms of when we are being our three-dimensional selves on this planet. I want to change those words and phrases out so that well into the future we can start bringing five-dimensional awareness and culture right here where we are in the 3D body. Okay, so let's look at the dimensions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hear a lot of discussions where the wording sounds like the dimensions are singular things like steps on a ladder that move upwards in a linear fashion. That one dimension is below 2 and 2 dimensions is below 3. And not only that, but I hear a lot of talk about second dimension is one thing. You know what I mean? First dimension is a rung on the ladder. Second dimension is the rung above, and it's one thing. It's the second dimension. And third dimension is above that, and it is one thing. It is the third dimension. I want to get away from that. I want to get away from linear conceptualization of the dimensions, okay? And I want to get rid of the hierarchy part of that description, okay? I also want to remind everybody that, say, two-dimensionality is 2 dimensions, okay? It's not one dimension that we call 2D. And three-dimensionality is not the third dimension, it's 3 dimensions, okay? So that's very, very important. Where we're going with this is that development of awareness in these particular dimensions is not like climbing a ladder. That is 3D human earthly conceptualization of something very, very different. So let's let go of that picture, and I want you to start thinking in terms of the fact that in your three-dimensional body, developing five-dimensional consciousness is an expansion of yourself. It's an expansion of your consciousness from right where you are. You're not going outwards in a linear way. You are expanding in 360. Okay? Your awareness is expanding in 360. Now I want to take just 1 second. I want to let you know that this is so very important, this concept, that when I conceptualized the vlog here, the table, I decided that my set was going to be big enough that I could stretch my arms out in order to remind you of my three-dimensionality, right? Because you're looking at me in a two-dimensional format, and I want to do everything I can to remind you that I am three-dimensional. So I move my body a lot when I talk. I'm a dancer, that's what I do. I want to make sure that I do it right here in front of you. Now the other thing is this window here that I love so much. It represents a certain thing as we go into our discussions, but it is also a 100-pound window that I got at the construction materials recycling place down in Oakland, and painted it up and backlit it and everything like that, and hung it from the ceiling so that it could remind you that despite the two-dimensional format you're seeing me in, there's this huge heavy object hanging in the middle of this space, defying gravity. I want you to be able to see gravity, earthly three-dimensionality, the weight of me on the chair, the weight of this thing hanging from wooden rafters. It's all very important. I want you to let that into your nervous system as we talk about the dimensions. All right, so let's just review what the dimensions are. And I'm going to speak of them in terms of physics, geometry, mathematics, and then our perspective here at the table, which is a study of consciousness. Okay? Consciousness. I'm going to leave the word spirituality out of it because we're talking about something that is beyond a concept of spirituality. It's consciousness. You are consciousness, I am consciousness. Okay? So, we're talking about 5 dimensions, but we'll start with 0. 0 dimensions in geometry is considered a dot in space. And if you take that dot and you draw those dots outwards, make it 2 dots with a line in between, that's 1 dimension. Okay? Width. If you go up and create another dimension of height, that's 2 dimensions. Okay? Width and height. Now, if you were to create depth, that's 3 dimensions. That's where we are. And all of the science and mathematics communities consider those first 3 dimensions spatial dimensions. Okay, spatial dimensions. Now, 4th dimension is something that is recognized in geometry, it's recognized in mathematics, and physics, quantum physics, considers the 4th dimension time. So here on Earth, they see 3 spatial dimensions with the addition of time. Now, time was assigned sort of as the definition of 4th dimension by Einstein and some of his contemporaries when they were, you know, working on things way back in the 20th century, earlier part of the 20th century. And it doesn't have to necessarily be true, right? It's just that they decided to assign time to the 4th dimension as a definition. However, remember that in physics, you can call any variable in any discussion of something physical, you can call any variable a dimension. That's not what we're talking about so much in our study of the dimensions of consciousness, but it's nice to be able to kind of see where we need to build the bridge, how physics needs to come to accept consciousness, because that's what's missing. Physics does not recognize consciousness. Quantum physics needs to connect consciousness into its conceptualization of the universe. Now, 5th dimension. A 5th dimension can be proven by mathematics. Mathematics recognizes a 5th dimension, geometry recognizes a 5th dimension, and physics recognizes the possibility that there's a 5th dimension, but there are so many physicists out there right now arguing as to what is that 5th dimension, because it cannot be observed in any conventional way. It cannot be directly observed at all. So the 5th dimension has come to represent that which cannot be directly perceived. And as someone looking at going from 3 dimensions, building a bridge into 5-dimensional consciousness right here with you at the table, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with us agreeing with physics that the 5th dimension is not perceivable by the usual methods unless you bring consciousness into the equation. And I've got a different way of describing consciousness to you in your body, in your nervous system. We're going to start rolling forward with that in my next video, which is going to be called 3D to 5D Methods 1. Okay, we're going to go roll right into that. So, in wrapping up our prelude to methods of going from a 3D consciousness to a 5D consciousness while still in the body. I'd like to leave you with a favorite quote of mine by a favorite teacher of mine called Shiva. Shiva is one of the gods of the Hindu Trinity, and in my opinion, Shiva's teachings are the most useful and pragmatic and amazing teachings for letting us know that not only can we, but we must learn to develop our consciousness, and we must learn to do it intentionally and become confident that we can bring our intentions to an amazing fruition. Okay, so here's Shiva. Shiva says, playing becomes smaller than an atom. Travel through the expanse of space. Playing. Play with your consciousness. Make yourself small, small as imaginable, which of course implies that you can make yourself big as well, right? Make yourself small, make yourself big, travel through space, and play. I love that. I love that word play. You know, you can't break anything here. Your consciousness is you. The universe is yours. You have a toolbox. You can sit in your little sandbox and you can play, free of fear of what the outcome is, free of breaking anything, you know, free of making a mess, free of disappointing yourself that you're not getting enough done. You know, let all that go. Become innocent in your perception of yourself in the universe. Go play. And so on that note, on to the next video. 3D to 5D, Methods 1. I'll see you there in a minute. Thanks for being here. Leave your comments.